Hey, five, oh, six.
Hello, everyone. My name is Denzel Washington, Fall 17 Initiate and Director of Educational Activities of the Theta Iota Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. I wanted to say thank you for joining us this evening for what is planned to be an exciting and informative conversation about the significance of the barbershop in the Black community. I would like to say thank you to all the brothers and the community partners, that were involved in the planning, production, and execution of this event. I would be remiss if I didn't thank our chapter leadership, President Brother Jason Asarifi, and all of the Divine Nine members for supporting our program. In addition to this event, today marks our 58th year of service to the greater Springfield community. In 1963, 7 members of Alpha Phi Alpha identified the need to charter an alumni chapter here in Springfield, Massachusetts. We are forever grateful for brothers Frank Bunton, Charles Comier, Ernest Davis, Clifford Flint, William Jones, Lee B. Revels, and Robert Paul Smith. Our service to this community shall continue. If you would like to learn more about our chapter and support our work, please visit our website at springfieldalphas.com and like us or friend us on our social media accounts. Thank you again. I will now pass the mic to our moderator for this evening, Brother James Lightfoot III. Thank you.
Welcoming us in this evening. I'll be your moderator for this evening. And as we begin, I would like to thank our panel of barbers, our youth, and community members who've joined us today. And our author and photographer of You Next, Reflections of a Black Barbershop, Mr. Antonio Johnson. I would also like to acknowledge our partner on this project, and we have 2 partners who've helped us move this and bring this program to you. Z Johnson of Olive Tree Books and Voices, located in Springfield, Massachusetts, and the Black Men of Greater Springfield for helping to support this program through a local grant. We are very thankful for that partnership and the great work that you're doing to service the community as we have. I also like to share a note that April 24th is Independent Bookstore Day. So stop by your local bookstore and support them. There's one here in New England, as I just stated, the Olive Tree Books, located at 97 Hancock Street here in Springfield. And their hours are Saturday 10 to 4 and Sunday 1 to 5. A quick commercial. All right. Our speaker for tonight and our panelists, I'll give a short introduction and then we'll get into this great conversation that many of you have been waiting for. Antonio Johnson, author of You Next, Reflections of Black Barbershops, was raised in West Philadelphia and educated at Morgan State University. It's an HBCU located in Baltimore, Maryland. It almost got me to rapping. Reading that, where you from. Antonio Johnson is an emerging visual artist whose work focuses on concepts of home and healing. His primary medium is photography, and in just a few years behind the camera, he has earned a reputation for capturing scenes that communicate the complex beauty of urban spaces and everyday people. Once you get a copy of You Next, you'll understand what that means. He's a self-taught photographer, and his work is undeniably intimate, authentic, and without frills. And you'll get to see some of those images shortly. Additionally, his work is informed by a long history of images capturing Black life with influences ranging from the work of Gordon Parks and Jamel Shabazz to Jeffrey Henson Scales and Andre Wagner. So that's a little bit about Antonio Johnson. Now, I'll be brief with our barbers. They'll be able to tell us a little bit about their story when we hear from them. But we have James Coppage from Sheer Perfection in Enfield, Connecticut. We have Mahdi Naylor at Six Corners Barbershop here in Springfield. And we have Jay Pope, AKA Swizz, at Showcase Barbershop in Springfield. So we're happy to have them with us this evening, and we'll get to hear from them shortly. So I will find our author here and spotlight him. There we are. And welcome Antonio Johnson to Springfield virtually. Welcome, how are you?
I'm well, thank you for having me. I am very happy to be in conversation with you all. I don't get a chance to talk to too many barbers in this type of setting, so I'm excited that that element is a part of this. And, you know, get to chop it up with the oldest Black fraternity in the country.
Nice, nice. Well, we thank you for being here and, presenting this opportunity to us. Not many authors are, beating at our door to, share their work. So, we offer this up to any authors who may have some work that they want to share to the community and use us as a vehicle to get that out. So enough about that. We want to know what led you to You Next. I mean, it is a different type of book, right? So what led to you? What was that motivation?
So I feel like it's a very long story, but I'm going to make it short for y'all. I've always been interested in art. I've always been interested in photography. I've always wanted to be at the helm of some type of creative process. Growing up in, like you mentioned, in Philly, I was surrounded by so many different influences of style, of culture, and the barbershop was where I was able to exercise most of those feelings about what was happening around me. Because I went to a very structured private school, and then my parents were very, very involved in church. So there weren't many spaces where I was getting like a lot of, nuanced references and, pieces of information for me to soak in as a kid. So when I went to the barbershop, it was always such an event. And it was a place that I feel like has shaped my worldview from a very young age, all the way up to now. When I would go to the barbershop, I would get all of these opportunities to find out who my dad was outside of him being my father. Spending time with my uncle who inspired this project. He was what a possibility of a young Black man could be. He was in college, he was cutting hair, he had all the latest clothes, all the music, everybody knew him. He was just that dude. And I was very, very happy and very fortunate to have those types of influences. So, that's how the barbershop, kind of made its impression on me as a young man. But as I started to grow up and as I went to college, I would, go back and forth from Baltimore to Philly just to get my hair cut because one, I couldn't find a barber in Baltimore who could cut me right. You know what I mean? But also there was just this connection to home and to being grounded in a way that you can only really find in your local barbershop or the barbershop that you know best. And so when I went to college, I went to school for broadcasting, as you mentioned, at Morgan State University, HBCU. And I studied broadcasting. I thought that I was going to be a CNN anchor. I was just clear that that was the path for me. But after, doing some internships and at radio stations or at TV stations, that kind of wasn't where I saw my life going, but I knew that I still wanted to be creating something. So through my connections that I made at Morgan and in different industries, specifically radio, that led me to, get an opportunity to move to New York, where I worked on many reality shows and the competition reality shows, and flex my muscle of creating things and being in the mix and in the process. And so I did that for a few years. And one trip I took to Cuba kind of like changed everything, right? I saw these really small shops that these Cubans were getting a haircut in with very limited resources, but the culture and the community that would exist inside of them was so rich and so full, and it just got my wheels thinking like, this could be a project that I explore further and connect to, what I know most is the Black barbershop. And the beginning stages of the project was going to be that I would take pictures in barbershops and connect them to pieces of Black literature where barbershops appeared. And, many of, Black writers mentioned the barbershop. Toni Morrison mentioned it, Ralph Ellison, James Baldwin, all of these people. And so, Richard Wright. And so I talked to my friends about it, thought about it a little bit more, and the idea morphed and grew into this project where I would take these pictures, but also instead of tying them to old pieces of literature, bring in new voices to share about their barbershop experience in the culture. And that project is the result of UNext reflections in Black barbershops. Thankfully, I was able to call on my community, just like many of y'all do, when something is going on or when you want to get the word out. I launched a Kickstarter in March of 2018. And 30 days later, it was fully funded. And by June 1st of 2018, I was on a 12-city tour documenting barbershops all over the country. And it has been so incredibly significant and so impactful to share a space that I and many others would consider to be sacred, but also clear on the fact that if it is a sacred space, and that means that we can't critique it, which we can, right? And we should, because there's no space that is perfect that exists within this country. I was able to do that through the lens of identity and wellness, that when you get inside that chair, you are one, making clear who and how you want to be presented to in the world, but also as you turn through that chair, those revolutions, something happens to you mentally, right? There have been times where I felt like I was, a little sad, a little down on my luck. And I would go to the barbershop and everything would change, right? I was able to workshop some of the ideas that I had in myself with my barber, but also get some feedback with the guys and some of the women who were also in the shop at the time as well. And like I said, it's really shaped my perspective and my view of the world, but also the world, just how I see myself, right? And I think that the beauty of UNext is, one, documenting what the barbershop experience is to so many of us, but also giving us space to reimagine all the ways that it can serve us in the future, right? And we've seen evidence of how these things can be implemented. We've seen that doctors and barbers can work together to check for early signs of hypertension and check your blood pressure right inside the chair, because we have a strained relationship with medicine in this country. Another thing is that as our communities change, some of the places that we do civic engagements with no longer exist. So the barbershop can also be a place where people go to vote. That's evident in barbershops in Philadelphia. Barbershop books. Alvin Irby is the founder of this great initiative where they bring books to barbershops for kids to, read. I didn't have a lot of books in the barbershop, but I had magazines, right? So it was the Jets, it was the Nat Geo, it was the Ebony. I found out and really leaned into this HBCU thing this belonging to the 10-1, right, from reading the Ebony magazine. They had an annual issue talking about HBCUs, and I'm sure y'all seen them. They would have all of the queens from the, look at this one, look at that one, and all of that stuff. So that that's where I got a lot of the information from, and I'm just happy to have been able to document this space before, excuse me, pre-pandemic, as we've been saying, because it serves as a document of who was there, where these places were, and what it means to us. And I'm excited to see how we continue to preserve this space post-pandemic.
Post-pandemic, right? Well, and I wanted to start off with this, but I wanted us to really get into kind of like what is that motivation. In your introduction, if you will, and let me tell you, I went hunting for this clip of
Okay.
gosh, why I can't remember his name right now. The comedian, sheesh, it escapes my brain. It'll come to me. But the intro, you start off is saying like his joke is,
Hannibal Buress.
Yes, Hannibal Buress, yeah. That, you ever like feeling, terrible and all you needed was a haircut.
Yeah.
I found a bit of the clip. It's not that clean. However, getting that, it's like, the haircut does something to you. And I know you're just, speaking on that, right? So you have all this stress on you and you're not feeling yourself, but you can go into the barbershop and have all that lifted off of your shoulders, right? So that 45 minutes or however long, allows you to like kind of free whatever that tension was. How did you come about that parallel, or like how did you find that, or was that just coincidence, or were you talking to Hannibal like, yo, I need you to make a joke?
No. So I went to the Apollo. It was my birthday, and it was he was performing. It was him. It was Chris Rock. It was some like other comedians, and this bit that he did, I'm telling you, was literally like 30 seconds, and that was it. There was no, he didn't expound on it anymore. I felt like I was the only person who really like that it was for, and it really resonated with me in a way that I think comedy often has the power to do, right? It singles you out. And so I heard that, I thought about it. It made sense to me, and I felt like there was a way to connect it to the larger story about my project, because I think that when we think about, I will say this, there's a lot of conversation, right, that happens about Black men and their mental health, and that, there's this, I don't want to perpetuate this idea that there's this stigma around Black men and mental health, but we don't want to talk to people, or we keep things bottled up. I don't always find that to be truthful, because I think that in the barbershop, we have exercised these things for so long, right? When there's an idea related to sports, or there's an idea related to politics, all of these things are shared very freely. So yeah, that's how the mental health component came about. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. No, I was just getting at, like, it was like pure coincidence that happened. I was wondering if it was like some other tie-in. All right. So you've traveled throughout the country engaging with barbers in the production of this book. As we all may know, barbers come in different personalities, right? So where did you find some of the most interesting barbers and what stood out about them as you were like interviewing or engaging with?
That's a good question. I think that, and this might sound corny to say, but I think every city had a interesting barbershop culture. I'll say that Philly barbers, to me, were the most significant, because it was the opportunity where I got to see things that I always saw that I thought was really special. So Philly is a culturally Islamic city. And so in between cuts, you will see barbers, many of them who are Muslim, praying. And the prayer is so ritualistic, and so it requires the body to move in such a way, which I thought was really interesting. And I didn't see that replicated in any other city. However, I will say that the barbers in Detroit were the most accommodating and the most it honestly felt like going to like a family reunion and seeing like all your cousins who you hadn't seen or hadn't met before, but they were like, let me show you this, or let me introduce you to this person. They were just very, very hospitable that way. But you know, each city had their own thing.
Had its own thing. Cool. And just moving forward, because there's so much I want to know from you, but there's also things that, you know, may come up from that our barbers will share also. In the book, I see that you did some short responses, and I've seen some photography from the Fulton County Jail. And we don't often think about those connections and the lengths that barbers go to carry out, you know, the duties, and then these opportunities that they provide to others. So can you talk a little bit about that experience, you know, going behind the walls or the stories that you received from that?
Yeah, so before I went out on this travel to do the book, I knew that I had to make a stop inside a prison or a jail. And that was really important to me because I think oftentimes when we think about people who are affected by the criminal legal system, we don't think about the ways in which they are taking care of themselves or being taken care of. When it comes to these men, right, the way that you present yourself to a jury could literally mean your freedom. It was something that I really wanted to do, and I made it a point. So I used my connections again. The sheriff of Fulton County at the time, his name was Ted Jackson. He went to Morgan many years before I did. And I just like reached out and was like, listen, I'm a Morgan grad working on this project, and I really feel like it's important to share what these guys who are inside feel when they get their haircut. And the stories that I got really were what you would, I guess, kind of imagine like people who are able to control their lives feel. And when I say that, what I mean is these were guys who had gone 90 days without a haircut. And they talked about how that length of time deepened their idea that I'm not human. I don't exist. I am not here. That nobody sees me. And as they got their haircuts, that changed. They felt like they were seen again. They felt whole. They felt there was some type of healing, and that they felt like they could present themselves the best way that they could, the way that they remember themselves to be. And it's interesting when like you are not getting a haircut for anybody but yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like that is, I don't know, like when I get my haircut, it's for me, but it's also for people to see like what's going on. But these are, that spiritual prayer, that meditative moment that happens in the chair just for themselves.
And make sure you're right for your people.
Yes.
You know, nothing's worse than having a messed up hairline going somewhere. So,
yeah.
And this question came from some of our committee work, and I found it interesting, right? So where did you get your favorite haircut while you were creating this book? And that's under the assumption that you were like, you know, you were checking these guys out, checking their skills out in addition to like getting some information.
So I got my haircut, I feel like in every city that I went to. So it's like 12 different haircuts. I feel like the best haircut that I got was in Detroit. On the tour, on my trip. I'm not gonna say Philly because I already did that. That's my hometown, so that'd be cheating. But I think Detroit, I got the best haircut, only because there was like this level of skill and care and attention to detail that I thought was important. And one of the things that I incorporate into like what a great haircut is the way that your haircut grows back, right? And so there wasn't a lot of maintenance. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Now these barbers are here too, so I'd love to get their take. But you know, when everything is not for like, you're not cutting just for like that single day. You want it to look good a few days after. So I think Detroit, the barber, his name is Motown.
Okay.
Cut me the best.
Shout out to Motown. All right. So the flip of that, where'd you receive your worst haircut? And it, not to put them out there, but where's one where you're like, this is interesting?
You know, I didn't really get too many bad haircuts on this trip, to be completely honest. I'm gonna be honest. But I'll tell you the worst haircut experience that I ever had.
All right.
I came home from school one weekend in college, and I could not get in touch with my barber. I couldn't get in touch with him. I couldn't get in touch with anybody at the shop. And you know, when you're young, you kind of procrastinate a little bit. So you push it off to the last minute. And of course, now it's crunch time. And I'm like, I can't believe G is not answering. It's his fault that I can't get a haircut. It's my fault, right? But anyway, I went to a Supercuts to get my haircut. And that was probably one of the most expensive mistakes that I've ever made in terms of getting my haircut, and the most traumatic in terms of like, I'm gonna look crazy now for like the next 2 weeks. And the crazy thing is that, like, as soon as you sit in the chair and you feel something happening, it's like, I know this is gonna be wrong. But I was desperate, I guess.
The clippers didn't sound right.
The clippers didn't sound right. There was just a lot of uncertainty and just lack of confidence on both of our parts, really.
Mm-hmm. So as you were, and you said like the guys in Detroit, the barbers in Detroit were very open to sharing some information and allowing you to photograph some of their spaces. So what are like some of the most interesting stories that you received, throughout that experience, or some things where you're like, wow, I didn't expect that?
Yeah, that's good question. I will say that I was really blown away by hearing so many stories about how barbers banded together in moments of protest throughout time. And when I got to DC, I talked to a barber who had been cutting for years, Frank Love. And I asked him, like, what is a moment that sticks out to you about being a barber? And he talked about during the 1968 riots, he and other barbers on that street in DC boarded up their buildings and wrote Soul Brother on them so that they wouldn't be destroyed. And it was so interesting because, just a few years later, we're in a moment of like severe protests, right? Where businesses and communities have to like really band together to, one, be clear about what their stance is on these issues.
Right.
But secondly, band together so that they can protect their communities and also provide and continue to provide that safe space, because the world is not always pleasant and kind to us. And so I think that was really significant, but also being able to go to Montgomery, Alabama, and have an afternoon talking, sharing the afternoon with Dr. King's barber and talk about what Dr. King was like, but also what his thoughts about the current moment was and how inspired he was at 87 to see so many young people active and engaged in things about politics and about just our future, right? So that was really significant. But then, you go to Oakland and you see Yusef Wright get his guys together to teach them ways to check for like the hypertension and the blood pressure right there in the chair. And that's like, wow, like I'd never thought that that's something that we needed, because like you think about only the doctor being able to do that, but why wouldn't your barber be able to do that, right? This is somebody who you trust, who knows you, and wants to take care of you. And this is, barbers were, versed in all things about health. They had to know about the body at one point, right? And they still do when they're cutting hair. Like they know how to make sure that your neck doesn't bleed open.
Right.
So those were great, but going to being in Crown Heights and meeting Kane, who is who's a Black lesbian woman who has a barbershop just for Black LGBTQ youth, and having a space that affirms their identity is really significant. So we can go on and on and on.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like, so yeah, I wanted to know some of those significant moments, and in hopes that people are intrigued enough to pick up your book, so that they can read some of these stories and see some of the pictures of the things you captured. And I would think kind of like a forward action from this program is like, you now have a deeper relationship with your personal barber. You can go in and be like, what other things could we be doing in this space that you've created?
Yes.
Right. And what makes your chair or this shop that you're in special, right? And so any client can come in and have a conversation that's, here's my pun, but it's more than the cut, right? It's like, what else can we do in this space to move our people forward and build? So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'll also say real quick too, there is a lot of responsibility on, I think, just business owners, period, right now, but specifically Black businesses, because it's like, we want to know that we are being taken care of on all sides, but there is a lot of pressure, right, on barbers, I think, to be all these things to everybody. And I think that the only way that is reasonable is if everybody is also contributing to that, right? Because that's incredibly taxing to be like, oh, I give my guys or everybody in the shop an opportunity to express themselves, and they're calling me for all these things. But also it's important to know that to make it clear that the barbers also have to find ways to feel whole for themselves, because you meet and you see so many people, and everybody's story feels or can feel very complex and personal. So
yeah,
that's important too.
It becomes heavy, I think, having to they're like caseworkers almost, right? So they're managing a lot of clients and so many things coming at them. They need some support also, so you can't put that all on them. But then sounds like an opportunity for them to be resources for folks who come into the chair looking for some help.
Exactly.
They slide their card over the cape, like, contact my boy, he'll take care of you. So kind of relieve that pressure. Last thing we'll ask you before we kind of transition, we want to hear from our barbers this evening. What other projects are you working on? Is there a follow-up to this great book, or is there other, things that we can look forward to from you?
I'm gonna say this about UNext. I'm always going to be connected to the barbershop space now because of it. You know what I'm saying? We holding up books, you know what I'm saying? Here we go. I want to always be connected to the space because I feel really connected to it. It has given me, honestly, so much. I don't know what the next stage of UNext looks like right now. I will say that I'm inspired by going to international or spending time abroad and traveling internationally to see the ways that barbers are cutting hair outdoors. And I feel like that could be a model for us in the US, just so we kind of, we've learned over the last year that being indoors can always be safe. And so that's a model that I feel like could be implemented in some way. But I am working on another project right now that deals with the element of water it's a relationship that I have. It's not a great relationship that I have with water, but I want it to be better. So I've recently started swimming lessons to support a documentary project that I'm working on about Black people throughout the diaspora and the element of water.
That's important, and so
it's too early to give it a name right now.
That's all right. We'll look forward to that, and I'll say, and many of my brothers here who are joined, within this space.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? My volume gone?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. So I was just saying, and sorry that you can't hear me, Antonio. I was just saying that, okay, good. That, that relationship with water would be very important. I know there are some brothers who I've worked with who've been camp counselors or, had some engagement as lifeguards and things. And so that relationship, is key for us because we like to go to the beach or we like to go and, hang out by the pool. And it's important that we know, those life-saving skills or those tips to, kind of keep ourselves safe. So, we'll look forward to that project. Hopefully it'll help.
I think it will. I think for me, it is already teaching me so many things about myself, right? And so many just psychological blocks that I have, I think that go into this process. But also, we think about like the environmental trauma that Black people have had to carry when it comes to water. I really want to heal some of that, right? In some way. So just keep me lifted up in your thoughts and your prayers as we go throughout this project.
Indeed. So we thank you right now, and we'll come back to you when we do some Q&A towards the end. We'll hear from our audience here or some of our guests to really get some more questions if they have them for you about the book. But I want to transition to hear from some of our barbers that we've connected with today. So I'm going to bring them forward. Make sure we all get on. All right, gentlemen, and welcome. And so, I don't want to do big introduction for you, although you are due that. I'll give you, you want to introduce yourselves, and then we'll get to hear from you some perspectives you had from the author, and, we'll get into some questions we have for you. So you all want to introduce yourselves?
Well, I guess I'll go first. My name is James Coppage. Born and raised here in Springfield, Mass. Husband, father. I'm also a minister at Mount Zion Baptist Church, where I do a mentoring program for a mentoring group called Young Joshua's. Also, my wife and I, Lakeisha Coppage, have our own consulting company called Coppage Consulting. And one of our programs is called VOICE, which is an acronym meaning voicing our individual collective experiences. We launched that a couple years ago with Springfield Renaissance. So just trying to be active in our community and do what we can for our brown and Black men.
All right, I guess I can go next. Thanks for having me, James, having me in mind, invite me to this panel, which I usually don't, do, but I'm grateful for the challenge. I'm youth pastor at my church, Holy Redeemer Cathedral, and I'm grateful for being a part of this panel. I volunteer, a little bit at my wife's parent villages organization she started up, which is coming along very well. You'll probably hear about it in the near future. Yeah, I'm just grateful for being here. So, that's about it.
Excellent. Thank you. And Jay, last but not least there. All right, sorry, you're on mute. Jay, you're up.
Oh, you in? I'm Jay. At the shop, they call me Swizz. I work at Showcase in Forest Park. I just cut hair.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for being here. And we'll get right into it because we want to hear from you. We heard from Antonio share a lot about what he experienced from his visits with different barbershops. But what made you all choose this profession? Like what brought you into becoming barbers? I'll say personal stylist, if you will. What brought you to that place?
For me, what it was, I was one of those kids in high school. Every Friday, I was in the shop, whether it was getting a haircut or getting a lineup. Parents started saying I was getting expensive. So, you know, I was a little smart. So I was like, what y'all gonna do? Y'all gonna buy me like my own clippers? And my mom bought me my clipper and started lining myself up. And then what really made me get real serious about it is I found out I was having my daughter. So I really wanted to find like a career rather than working just a regular like job, just to try to get by. And I had talent at it because it got to the point where my own barber at the time, he was like, I don't even want to cut your hair no more. You only come here and do the back of your head. Like I can't even charge you for just the back of your head. And he put me in the works and told me like, yo, go to this school and, you know, go to school, get your license and do all that. So that's really how I got started.
Good, excellent, thank you.
Oh, well, my father made me, he twisted my arm and told me you're gonna do something with your life. You know, so but he was a key influence in my life. So I'm grateful just for having a father in my life. And I just had personally, I had a pair of clippers hanging around the house, you know, and I found them and I was already kind of talented and gifted with my hands. And I just started using those artistic skills, whatever. And I got 5 younger brothers. So I used them as guinea pigs and I was putting graffiti and their names in their head. And yeah, so I got a big family, so I was able to practice on them. And that's kind of what helped me choose the profession of being a barber. It was my father, and it was kind of just it being in the blood, you know, the bloodline, because my father was a master barber. Okay. He was a master barber, so he passed that. After he seen me working on my brothers, he came in the room and said, hey, you ever thought about going to school, being a master barber? And I was like, wow, ding, it hit me, you know, and that's when I just ran with it. So the rest is history. Yeah.
Rest is history. No, thank you. That's awesome. James, we'll hear from you.
For me, I just started on myself, just doing little stuff in the mirror. Even when I went to the barbershop, I would come back and mimic what they did. And I felt like, well, this is something I can do. And then when I started doing with family and friends and seeing the reaction I got after that, I just fell in love with it and decided to run with it.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So it seems like some of this is like gift, right? So is it true or would I be out of place to say like, so you either are a barber or you're not? Or do they make barbers by going to school?
It's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like you won't have the love for it at first. Like the school just helps you like get what you need, get your license, get your paperwork good. But like really the talent for it, it comes out of you with time and practice and all that and passion. That's really where it comes from. At least for me, that's how I feel.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see somebody who knows how to do it and somebody who loves how to do it. So somebody can just throw a haircut together, but someone that loves doing it and passionate about it, it's a different haircut.
Yeah. Okay.
No, for sure.
Excellent. All right. So, you know, we gathered this this program together and put it together to really find out like what else comes with the barbershop besides the haircut. And so the question I'll ask is, what is the significance of the barbershop in communities of color? Like why, or do you see them being significant? I don't want to make that assumption.
Well, we like
think-
barbers.
I think for barbershops are important because they're like the Black man's country club. It's a place that we can come together and be our authentic selves without worrying about any judgment, worrying about, you know, our reality being offensive to anybody. It's just a place that we can come be who we are. It's kind of a safe zone to keep it real.
It's like we barbers, we therapists, we brothers. We just, you know, we what you need to be. You know what I mean? If you need somebody to talk to, like you got something on your mind during that cut, we talk about it. We can get discussions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, barbershops, they enhance your self-esteem. Usually when you walk in a building, they look at your sneakers or they look at your hair, your haircut. And
we looking at both.
Huh?
We looking at both.
Right, exactly.
Hey, how come your hair don't match your shoes, brother?
Yeah. So it's just a place where you just come, tell jokes, man, and kick it, and you hear good advice, and you know, and no matter whatever you're going through in life, you know, it might be buying a house, it might be getting advice about a girl, it might be, you know, a job you're looking for, but it's always been a place where you can come and get some good information.
It's a lot of people's like safe havens too, because sometimes people just, you know, they come to the shop and don't even get haircuts, but they just, you know, they feel safe here. They feel like it's a place that they can hang out, talk, and then go upon their day. Sometimes it's some people's reset buttons.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So
I kind of missed that though, because the COVID kind of changed it up for us. You know,
Yeah.
right before the COVID, the barbershop was packed, but now it seems like
hey, one at a time, in and out.
Yeah, exactly.
And that has to be tough with that shift. And you know, so what I was going to talk about next is like, you know, the culture inside the barbershop, right? So not to like, you know, kind of talk for the walls of all the information that comes in there. But how's the culture of the barbershop formed by the barbers? Is there something special you're doing, or is it just like very organic that it just happens?
I think it all depends on how you interact with certain people, because you don't interact with everybody the same. You know, you got, you know, like growing up, you have like your set of friends and you act like this way with this set of friends. So like that, you have different clients. You got, you know, older clients that you gotta act a little different with, because, you know, they're just older and you want to respect them. And then you got like you got younger clients, you know, you talk around, you can talk a little different. You know what I mean? Like you might curse a little bit with the younger group, but you ain't gonna cuss with the big dogs. You know what I mean? Just be like that. But when they come in, it's really just a genuine feeling how you feel with that person in your chair, or the people that, you know, that's inside your shop.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to be intentional with knowing your clients and knowing your people, and letting them know that it's safe, because between a barber and a client, what starts off is trust. They trusting that they sit in your chair, they're gonna get what they ask for. And so as barbers, we make sure that that trust is well placed. So once that established on that trust, then, you know, it's kind of like my man says, it's a woosah. He's like, I'm good now, because, you know, I heard what he said. I'm giving him what he want. And like, you wear different hats for young kids. You know, you got to turn into, you're dealing with a 5-year-old. You got to be a daycare provider. You got to switch
a baby shark,
not only for the kid, but even for the parent, to let them know that you know how to deal with kids. So it's just the barber really directs the whole culture of the shop.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. And communication. Yeah, communication. I think Jay said it. Yep. Is very important, you know, not just with your words, but the way how you interact with the customers, you know, as far as, you know, if we show up late, if we don't be on time, if we're not communicating back with people that's looking for a haircut, you know, that might bring the culture of the barbers down, you know, oh, these barbers ain't no good around here, you know, but we want to keep it kind of up, like professional, where we're held in a light where people can glean something from, that they smell good, they look good, you know, they got good posture, they got all kind of good things, it's, you know, that we can look up to, because you get all ages coming in, from kids to, you know, elderly.
The elderly, yeah. And so that was going to lead into like what, you know, I was thinking about, and kind of like having this conversation with you, right? So you have this very diverse client base, right? And, you know, Jay spoke to these multiple hats or roles you're playing, right? You could be the therapist, you can be the, you know, you're the barber, you're this resource. Also, I mean, we have a couple of, you know, have a youth minister or youth pastor here, you know, have a mentor, a lead who's doing programs in school. Like, what other roles that you can like intentionally identify as like, this is who I have to be for, you know, these clients, right? And James said daycare provider for the youth, right? So what are some other like very specific roles you think you're playing?
So like I said, like a therapist sometimes.
Right.
You know, people, you know, they be going through with, like you said, like with girls or like just their personal life, and you know, they trust us enough to talk to us. Some of them, they probably trust you more than their lawyer or anything. You know what I mean? So a therapist, I think, is one of the biggest things outside of being a barber that we are in the community.
Okay.
Yeah, I would echo that, and also add, just being a friend. You can't assume nothing from any client that's sitting in your chair. They may have a persona that's not really who they are. So if you can be a authentic friend, and it'll open up so many doors that you may be stopping somebody from cutting their wrist just because they sat and they consider you a friend, and you kept it 100 with them, and they're like, "Well, I don't have any friends." I had so many clients tell me I don't have any friends, and I'm like, "Wow," and it's like, you know, you're my friend. So, you know, to be a therapist, definitely, and just just keep it real and be a friend to people, and to be intentional to listening. That's important. Listen to what people are telling you so you can respond, and not just respond before you even hear what they're saying. Listen to what they're saying.
Listening ears, that's important. Yeah, just to hear what people are saying, and sometimes they don't need you to say too much. I feel like listening ears and being a therapist play the same role. Like, you just there listening to, wow, the situation, and sometimes you got to give a little bit of counsel, and sometimes I had, you know, yeah. So listening ears, listening ears is very important. As a priest. As a pastor, I even had to marry some people, you know. So I married
more
some.
than a barber now.
Yeah, I'm more than there you go. I married some of my customers, so it's important. It's interesting. Yeah.
You definitely make connections with your customers outside of just the shop, because I got a couple clients that I didn't know from the beginning, but now like I'll probably step out with them and, you know, hang out a little bit.
Definitely.
And so essentially you become, you know, and no diss to Charles Barkley, right? But you become role models, you know, from your place, where these people may not know anything about you, but they're seeing the skills you have with your hands, and what you're giving them through, you know, your listening and your communication. You then become their go-to person, right? And so none of you all said that, like, you know, I'm a role model, right? But that's one role that I would say you identify with having. You know, they're coming to you
definitely
to, like,
yeah, I think that comes with time.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because like being like a role model, like, because you have like young kids that come in and be like, oh, like I would love to learn how to cut hair, and then they kind of gravitate to you. Or like, oh, like, how did you start? Then you have that conversation with them. And then like I've had a couple of kids, I told them, like, if you really want to learn, you can come in, you could shadow me, you could watch me just simply cut hair. Cause that's how you really learn how to cut hair. It's not sometimes the school, depending on what school you go to, they don't always teach you how to do certain things. And a lot of schools out here, they they try to incorporate being a hairdresser and being a barber in the same school. So they teach you more hairdressing stuff than being a barber. So you really learn like being how to be a barber inside the shop rather than going to school.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a learning, you're learning while doing.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
We do have some comments or some questions popping up from our audience. And I think I've seen a couple on Facebook Live here. I have a couple more that we wrote, and then we'll get to those. If there are any common misconceptions of barbers or barbershops, right? Are there any misconceptions that you've encountered throughout your time?
I'm gonna think the biggest one is that we do have lives outside of this barbershop. A lot of people, they just feel like, oh, you have to be here. Like, I got kids. I gotta go sometimes. Like, we're still human.
Right.
We're not vampires in here.
Right.
Definitely. Definitely.
They call you out. They call you at 9 o'clock. You okay? I get a cut. I'm trying to put my kid to sleep.
Definitely. And even though we serve a diverse community and we got a judgment-free zone, you can't get everything from the barbershop. Meaning there's some people that, they hook up at the barbershop because that's just the spot everybody meet at. And they may be doing stuff that doesn't represent the shop. But it's let's meet up at the shop. And that's, it don't go down like that at the shop. It's not who the shop represents. Our clients,
Right.
Sometimes, we gotta stay away from certain people. Like that's not how we get down.
So that misconception of let's meet up at this place,
Right.
because no one's gonna bother us here.
Exactly.
Yeah, the barber shop's not a front. This is a real barber shop.
Exactly.
Cool. So barbers I've encountered have this special skill set, right? So you always are able to like tell a story or listen to your client and are, I won't say quickly, but you're able to then provide some feedback, and Jay was saying like, you kind of learn as you go of how to like engage in the barbershop, right? But do you find that you all have like a special like storytelling talent or this ability to always adapt some experience to what your clients are sharing with you?
I think that just comes naturally from conversating with people, because you get some clients that like the very first time you cut somebody, you might just do like real generic like talk, and then the next time you cut them, then you start getting a little bit more personal. Because I've had some clients that like, I ain't gonna lie to you, like we probably said hello, probably didn't say no words up like during the haircut, you all set, man, and that's it. But then the next time they come in, we get to talking. You just feel out people.
Mm-hmm.
Some people will sit in your chair and don't want to be talked to, but then you got some people that they want you to talk to them. They want you to interact with them. So it's a real this personal feel that you get with people.
Yeah. Throughout my experience, I felt like there's been many times when I talked to one person about a conversation, and I would talk to somebody else, and what I learned from that conversation benefited him. So you got to be able to recap stuff and events that may benefit to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And it all comes from being intentional with conversating with people and recapping events. Because like I said, I've told people certain situations that I heard from someone else that benefited what they were going through. But I had to listen to my clients and recap that event. So I had to tell that story and benefit like that.
Yeah. Okay.
I learned through time that storytelling really is something that keeps the customer coming back over and over, getting repetitive customers, because people like to hear a good story. Yeah, because it helps build a relationship. You end up talking about things that, and opening up about different things, and so.
Excellent. Yeah, I hear that. And so James, you started to get into, something, and I was going to transition to questions we have from our audience. It says you do a lot of teaching and giving lessons. But what have you learned while, giving a haircut or, working with one of your clients? Like what's something that stuck out to you?
For me, it's something that happens all the time, but I can never get used to it. How much we control are in control of somebody's whole attitude. There's people that come and sit in on a chair and they can be so depressed or so at the breaking point, and conversating with them and cutting their hair and listening to them. It's not even like my man said, Jay, some people come in and don't even get a haircut. To me, it's the atmosphere of the barbershop plays so important part of the Black and brown men that it's not even about the actual cut. It's about just being there, being available to go to that spot and get whatever they need. That's my experience of probably my most experience is how important it is. Imagine no barbershops.
I had like an experience like that today. One of my friend's little brothers, and his brother died like 2 years ago. And he just came in and he just felt comfortable just here waiting for his ride. You know what I mean? It's a safe space. You know what I mean? You can come in, he's like, yo, I'm just waiting for my mom. So by all means, wait for your mom, brother. Like, you're good here. Like, he feel comfortable coming here because, you get to know people. So you feel comfortable with them. You don't, what I mean? It's not like a strange place to you. It's almost like your second home.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And we didn't, we don't got a whole lot of places like that, especially with everything that be going on. I too many places you can feel safe at outside of your own home.
Right.
Yep. Marty, you feel the same way?
What was the question? What'd you say?
I was just talking about, let's say, what are you learning outside of just giving a cut? So what are you getting back from that experience?
Oh, what am I learning from?
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, you learn a lot, Well, I really don't even understand the question, but
Yeah. So it was like you do a lot of teaching and giving lessons.
Mhm.
I think I was still there. What are you learning while you're giving a cut? Like,
what am I learning while I'm giving a cut?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well,
or if anything, yeah.
Well, you learn a lot dealing with people, like you said, everybody's going through something different. And when you take the time to pay attention to your customer clientele, you experience a lot how to just be a listening ear. You experience how to be a help. You experience how to be a role model. And a lot of times we don't even realize, like I'm realizing because of this meeting, how important barbers really are in these different situations. So I'm gonna try and pay more attention just how important, barbers are. Sometimes we don't really realize the importance of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's true. And this is one of those things that I'll say it struck us, right? To think about, as James was saying, what if there was no barbershops, right? And understand what would happen if, this space that you all have created or become a part of didn't exist. Jay's shared, a young man came and found a safe space, right? Until his ride showed up. You really needed to get something off your chest and you couldn't find anyone else but your barber, right? You couldn't run to your pastor. You couldn't run to your dad. You couldn't run to like your best friend. You found, chair number 2 on Hancock Street, and you knew somebody would be there, to hear you out without judgment. And so, it's important. And, I don't think, and this is my personal opinion, that barbers really give themselves all that credit, right? Or maybe you don't want it. Maybe you do what you do, not for the glory, not always for the tips, although they help, right? But you want to be there to like change some lives and help people out. I see a comment that says, the barbershop, they love that the barbershop is the safe zone for us, right? We need a place, we need a retreat, and you guys offer that up. Couple more questions, right? So what is the best compliment that you can receive as a barber?
Referral.
Yeah, I like that.
Somebody come to your
Yeah.
shop and said, "My man, you cut my man's hair." He said, "You know, you real good." That's humbling. That you know what your skills not only spoke to that person, but your name is being spoke across within the city, or you know. So that to me is was referral.
Okay.
No, for sure. Referrals is one of the biggest things that we can really get. Like you're saying, like it's reaching out more than that one person that we cut. Now we, you know, it brings you more people, and then that just builds up your clientele, your community in the shop. You know what I mean?
In addition to referral, yeah, some of the best compliments I received was because I've been a barber over for 20 years now. So when somebody can say, "Oh yeah, you've been cutting my hair for over a decade or over 20 years, and you ain't giving me a bad haircut yet," you know. So I'm like, wow, that's
good. We appreciate the commitment.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So we stay with some people longer than they stay with their girlfriends.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow, that's heavy there. Couple more, and then we'll bring in questions from our audience if there are any. What advice would you give to any, you know, up and coming barbers or young people who may be interested in this field? You know, and I know in the beginning I wasn't going to call folks out, but Mahdi, you have 20 years. James, how many years you have?
10 plus.
10 plus. Jay, are you at 10 yet?
I'm going on 10. I've been cutting hair since I was 16.
Okay, so 16. So we have some veterans here. So none of you all just got your license or certification, and you just put it in that nice plaque on the wall next to chair number 1. So what's some advice you would give to up and coming barbers?
Make sure you got the passion for it.
Oh yeah.
Make sure you got the passion for it. It's something, because there's gonna be days where you like, man, I don't want to cut no more hair today. But like, it's the passion that you have for it, and you know you want to perfect your skill, and don't just think it's some way to make no easy money, because that's not what we do it for. It's not just a way to make easy money. You do it because one, you got a passion for it, and you don't mind being a people's person, because it's hard to be a barber if you're not really a people's person. I'm not saying you got to be the best people's person, but you got to have a little tolerance for different types of people, because you don't know who's gonna come in. So you gotta be able to just deal with different people, different behaviors, different ethnicities. Because like I'm like right now, I cut in on Forest Park. We got Black people, we got Puerto Ricans, we got Indians, Asians, we got everybody, and not everybody's the same as you, as your last client. You just gotta be able to make sure that you kind of like somewhat of a people's person. It's gonna help you. It's gonna make you go the extra mile.
Okay.
I would say don't let mistakes discourage you. In the beginning, well, even now you're gonna make mistakes, but don't let mistakes discourage you. Keep going, keep moving, and definitely never stop learning. Never stop learning your craft, even if it's taking little classes here and there, or following someone on social media that you like, that you respect. Always try to better yourself. Never get complacent in your craft, and don't get scared of the first chair in the shop. Everybody got to start somewhere. And like I said, you remember barbershop and Isaac. Nobody wanted Isaac cut his hair, and Isaac end up being the nicest barber in the shop. Stay true to yourself, and don't let mistakes discourage you, and keep learning.
Excellent.
That's right. Keep learning. Go to school. Get your license. Get your paperwork together. And plus, don't let people wear you down. Sometimes people they might underpay you, or want you to work extra late, or call you, like he said before, call you while you home with your kids. Sometimes that could just wear you down and be like, I don't want to look at clippers no more. I don't want to cut nobody's hair no more, because somebody probably overwhelmed you with the craft that you love. And instead of you charging them an extra twice as much because we don't really want to charge people too much. We end up doing it for the regular price, but then we're working overtime and,
Right.
you know, going all out our way. So, you know, so invest in your craft, go to school, and like you said, keep investing in your craft and learning something new.
Excellent, excellent. So we're going to flip over to our Facebook Live questions. I see a really good one here, and they're all coming through. Is there a way we can amplify the barbershop community again? This person is very interested in being a part of that revival or amplification of that community. And it says to create a refreshing energy for our community here. So is there a way we can amplify the barbershop community again?
I don't think it really necessarily died down. It's just a little different now because of, you know, like COVID and stuff. But at least like for me, I feel like, you know, the same people come in, we still do the same interactions. Yes, it's a little different because we can't have too many people in the shop, but I think the vibe is still there.
Mm-hmm.
We just gotta, you know, wait till this COVID thing passes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we got hit hard with this COVID thing. So we all kind of fell back. But if we can get together as barbers and understand, I remember when I first started off, a barber told me it's money out here for everybody. So it's not really a hate thing. So if we can get together and get barbers together and make sure everybody's qualified, make sure where you lack and maybe I can help out, get like a union together and see what we can do just across the city with barbers. I think that'd be good too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Excellent, excellent. I'm going to ask again from our folks that we've gathered in the room if they had any other questions. I know there's one question hanging out there for Antonio. From Facebook, I see someone might have missed your introductions. If you wanted to go real brief again about how you got into the profession.
So I'm an artist. I'm a self-taught photographer, but I've always been interested in media and creating things, and whether it be TV, radio, photos. UNext kind of came to me through some traveling internationally, and I don't know, sparked that interest from like a bit that I heard from Hannibal Buress at the Apollo. I just like to create. I like to create things that are for Black people and about Black people. So that's it, really.
All right. And real quick, our barbers, how you got into it? I know there's like, you know, someone held you at Clipper Point. No. Real quick, how'd you all get into the field as well?
Oh, with me, it was just practicing on myself, and then just falling in love with it, being able to do it myself. Just fell in love with the craft.
Okay.
Work, like you said, like working on yourself, working on your little brothers, your friends, and just really like just the need for a haircut sometimes.
Yeah, just having fun doing what you do. It started with my little brothers, moved to my cousins, then to my church family, then it just kept growing. Yeah, so that's
built up your client base internally. Antonio, question that came up in regards to the book. Were you in any spaces that had white barbers, or what are your thoughts about white barbers?
No. If I was at a barbershop and there was a white barber there, they were passing. So no. What do I think about white barbers? I don't. I don't go to white shops, but I will say that, you know, we have like, you know, the barber union and things like that kind of came out of white ethnic groups who came to the US as a way to move Black men out of the space. right? So the Germans who cut hair, who did not think that that black man cutting hair, or thought the white Germans who came here very early on in this country, they did not think that cutting hair was a service job, which it was, right? Like historically, cutting hair was lower on the economic pole. And so as a way to move Black people who had monopolized the space, right? Because they were cutting hair for their owners, for lack of a better word, they formed these unions and these laws that made us have all of these requirements. So when I think about white people or white barbers, that's what I think about.
We got a question from one of our young people who were here with us in the space. So what is the biggest debate you've discussed or encountered in your shop? That would be for our barbers.
It's normally something political.
Yeah, I mean, it's
because
barbershop. You debate all day, every day. I couldn't even.
Political, sports.
Yeah, it's between. I mean, yeah.
Who's better,
Sports.
Jordan or LeBron?
Yeah,
that one get real heated.
Right.
Sports, politics, or religion. That's the top one.
Another crazy one that I've heard, not recently, but the biggest argument that I've seen in the barbershop was about the Illuminati.
What?
About the Illuminati. It literally had guys like leave. I was blown away.
Everybody got the conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
everybody got it. Yeah. Yeah, that's all day, every day.
Right. Any more questions for our guests we brought today? Brothers, would you like to join in? Questions you have about the barbershop? And I'll have one before we close, but just want to give all who've gathered an opportunity. I see one of our Black men in Greater Springfield representative said he saw Muhammad Ali in front of Zach's barbershop on Catherine Street in 65. That's huge. I would wonder how he felt seeing, such a larger than life individual coming out the barbershop. Reminds me of like Coming to America when they're like telling the stories of who's been in their chair.
Yeah.
Muhammad
Ali is probably one of the most is one of those figures that I've seen the most in barbershops. His photos are everywhere. I remember going to a shop specifically in Oakland, and on like two different streets, there's in the same neighborhood, they all had like a wall dedicated to like all people who had gone to this barbershop the day that Muhammad Ali was there, in both shops, because he was just that big of a figurehead.
Wow.
Greatest.
The greatest.
I had one more question, but it looks like we have one more. Looks like from our Facebook, and we can close on this one unless there are any other things you all want to share. What's one of the biggest challenges barbers currently face? And then what can the community do to help support that challenge?
That's a good one. I mean, right
now,
yeah,
like you was about to say, like COVID, like, because like the atmosphere do kind of change, because now I know a lot of shops we can only work by appointment. We can't do walk-ins no more, and a lot of people still try to walk in and try to be a walk-in, and it just doesn't work that way. And people, they get a little frustrated, and it's like, but it's not that I want it this way. It's just how it is. I just need you to be a little patient with me. I'm gonna be patient with you. If I can get you in, I'm gonna fit you in. If I can't, then worst case scenario, I gotta give you an appointment for later today or tomorrow. Okay. I think that's probably the biggest challenge right now, is just having people understand how the barbershop gotta work right now due to COVID.
Right.
And
And I think Jay spoke about it earlier, is that we got lives too. So, just bear with us as far as, we take vacations, believe it or not. And
They don't believe that.
that's the hardest and scariest thing about a barber, is taking a vacation.
Mm-hmm.
Leaving for a week or two, oh my. Because barbers get cheated
That's
on if we there every day, all day. But imagine we leave for a week or two.
and it'd be like that because we also in one of them professions that, like, if I ain't here, I ain't making no money.
Right.
So, like, to take a vacation, like, I gotta really plan for that. I might have to plan for that a couple months. That's to, fit that in, make sure I ain't about to lose no money. And especially, like, if you ain't a shop owner, you end up paying the chair. And even when you're not there, you gotta still pay that chair. Or if that owner, want to be that type of dude, he gonna give up your chair.
Right.
So that's another issue we got too. I mean, we need to get some paid. We got to get a union so we get paid vacations too.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely say that. Get a union with the barbers. I would love to see that unity with our within all the barbers. Let's come together. See if we can help each other, help our communities out. Because it starts and ends with the barbershop. A lot of people come in and do, like you said, the reading initiative, the sports, different things come through the barbershop. So we can get together as and unify. That'll be used too.
Excellent.
some of the challenges I faced was all these shops opening up. And I mean, I know people got to make money, but get your work towards your credentials and your license, your proper license, because a lot of these is putting out bad names for a professional barber. They up in the barber shops, they cutting and they ain't got no license. They nicking and scratching and messing up people. No, so not. But some of them can cut. Some of them can cut. But what I'm saying is start working towards your goals, getting your license and your paperwork together. So that's some of the challenges that I had to face, was competing against all these shops opening up, and they're not legal or whatever you want to. Hey man, they're not legit. So I went through the legit way, I went through the right way, and I feel like, hey, you got to pay a price to be the barber or whatever.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for your time today. We got some good feedback here. People were enjoying what they were hearing from you all. Antonio, James, Madi, Jay, thank you so much for kind of like last words. And we'll let Antonio go last. But I want you gentlemen barbers to shout out your shops, where they're located. Someone asked, where are these shops located? You may be getting some new clients soon. So if you want to take a few minutes or 1 minute to share where you're located and what chair you are, so they'll have some confidence that you're not, at the window. No. But we can start with, we'll go Jay, Madi, James. You want to share where your shop is?
I'm located on 727 Sumner Ave, Forest Park, Springfield. Shop Showcase. If you guys want to contact me, you can contact me at 413-234-7912. That's my personal number. I would prefer you text me with your name. That way I could save it in my phone and we could just take it off from there.
Excellent.
Right, I'm at Six Corners Barbershop, right in the middle, the heart of the city, 298 Hancock Street. Phone number is 413-219-7270. Like Jay said, it's done by texting and calling in advance. So don't just try and pop up, unless you're just trying to make an appointment. But yeah.
All right.
James Cobb is 27 North Main Street, Enfield, Connecticut. Sheer Perfection Barbershop. I just want to say, if you're out there and you're really struggling with knowing what you want to do and you may got a couple strikes, barbershop is one of those professions but they don't look at your past. That's what I love about being a barbershop. So if it's something that you looking about doing, call me for a cut, or call me if you think about getting a haircut and you think you can't get hired nowhere, you can't get a job nowhere, you got a couple strikes. Barbershop may be something you're looking at that don't look at your past and your mistakes.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you all. Antonio.
I think that's good. I'm very thankful that you guys asked me to share with you guys tonight. I really appreciate it. I thought the conversation was very insightful. Like I said, I don't get a chance to always hear from the perspectives of barbers when I do these types of virtual events. So I'm glad that you guys were here. Also, you guys are possibility models. We talked about role models, but the realm of possibility of what you can be. If there's a guy who has, strikes against them in the criminal legal system, you are the model of a possibility of what they could be and who they could become. And I think about that in so many ways, that the barbershop represents that, from the style guides to the barbers to the people who are just waiting there. So many possibility models of what we can become, who we can be, can happen within that chair. So I'm thankful to be sharing with you guys. My book is available. You Next, Reflections in Black Barbershops. It's available wherever books are sold, whether that be barnesandnoble.com. If you support a local bookshop, which I recommend, is there. And yeah, just you can find me on my website, Antonio Johnson.com. More information about me, the work. You could buy some prints if you like. And I'm Antonio M. Johnson on all social media.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And just wanted to hop back real quick. James Coppage forgot to share his phone number, 413-265-6644, and he's at Sheer Perfection out in Enfield. Thank you all again for joining us this evening. Do support Black businesses, your barbershops, your local bookstores, anything that's helping to build our community up and move us forward. So thank you all again this evening for being with us. Brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha, happy Charter Day. Salute to you for all the work you continue to do in the Springfield community. And we just thank you for being with us tonight. All right. Look forward to what we have coming in the next year and the next week. All right. Until we meet again, peace to you all.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, appreciate you.
No.